Welcome to African Affairs, the television program on Africa. We are in the studio of DCTV in Washington, D.C., United States of America. Today, my guest here with me, Dr. Ali Mahailu. Dr. Ali Mahailu is a research fellow at Howard University. And Mr. Vicente Rondo, former senatorial candidate for Abia Central, and the president of Nzuko Igbo, a Nigerian think tank group here in Washington, D.C. Both of you, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Today we're going to talk about Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is on the west coast of Africa. It has a population of about 6 million people. It has indigenous people that live there, still live there, people like the Temne, the Mende, the Bulani, the Limba, the Banga, the Nalu, the Ladamu. The religion is a native religion, what you might call animism. About 60% belong to this sect of religion. The rest are different aspects of and different groups of Christians. Sierra Leone got its independence from Britain April 27, 1961, and it has abundance of natural resources. When we discuss these countries in Africa, it is important that we mention these resources, because when violence and crisis plague these countries, they are rated as one of the poorest, like they don't have any resources. Look at the resources of Sierra Leone. They have diamonds, titanium ore, bauxite, gold, iron ore, cronite. The agricultural products, coffee, cocoa, palm kernel, palm oil, rice, peanuts, livestock, and fish. Now, as I said, it is important to mention these products, both natural and agricultural. Now, the history of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone was a Christian trade, a Christian center, a trade center, educational center. The British used it as a point to evangelize the people around Sierra Leone. In 1787, a batch of about 400 ex-slaves, they called them the Black Paul of London, were repatriated from Britain to settle in Freetown, which is the capital. Now, after that, other ex-slaves from Jamaica and Nova Scotia were also brought to settle in Sierra Leone. And plus those who were recaptured from slave ships by British squadron were brought. The population rose to about 40,000 of Africans that were repatriated to settle in Sierra Leone, especially in Freetown. Before I continue with the activities that took place, that were carried out, I want to ask Dr. Ali Mahailu, what effect did this repatriation of ex-slaves from Britain, Nova Scotia, Jamaica, and those captured from the slave ships, what were the effects in the polity, in the culture of the people of Sierra Leone during this period in time?
Yes, as you point out, like Liberia, Sierra Leone was one of those countries that was held with high hope, because it was a place, even though slavery at the beginning was conducted from its borders and a good number were brought from the area, it was one of those places where the repatriated free slaves were expected to lay a groundwork of a democratic institution where the people could live in peace and prosperity. And this were the elites of the time who were exposed to modernization, the Jamaicans who lived in Great Britain, and others also who joined them. So the hope was that they would lay the basis for education, for development, for a system based on the rule of law. But this was played out in a large way, like you said. Even when the British colonized the western part, even Nigeria was run from Sierra Leone in the beginning until it was set out to be led on its own. So you can see how they produced many writers, politicians, barristers that were at the forefront of the struggle for independence in Africa. So it had a big impact in the area in terms of hope, but in reality things turned sour as they develop, as I'm sure we'll discuss in the course of our meeting here. But the impact of this was strong in some ways, but not as effective, because they were limited to the coastal areas, as in Liberia. And the contradiction between the interior and the coastal areas, which were supposed to be civilized in quotation marks, came out towards the end with the politicians mismanaging the opportunity.
Okay. Mr. Vincent Erondo, what is your input in the presence of these slaves from Britain and Nova Scotia, Jamaica, and the captured slaves when they came to live in Sierraleone?
Well, from what I can gather, let me look at it from another perspective, is that those slaves, I mean, the British really wanted to reward the Africans who fought for them during the American War of Independence. That's a way of freedom they were giving them. They want to remove them from Britain, remove some of the paws, some white paws they get from Britain, and find them a place in Africa, and then get them in Sierraleone. Like Dr. Haley said, it was just Sierraleone, by the way, is a mountain. It's a Portuguese word that's derived from the mountainous nature of the area. They didn't make any effort to integrate them or to bring the indigens nearer. In other words, they were trying to impose, even though these were originally Africans that had left there, maybe their parents for centuries, for years, there was no effort made to reintegrate them to the local population up until so many years before they came together to form that country and start looking for independence. The implication means that the repatriated group seemed to be like a man-made ethnic group. And these other people were seeing them, the indigenous were seeing them as stranger elements. So what resulted in the crisis of this time was a seed that was wrongly sown in those in the 20th century.
The early days. Okay, now yes, they really were westernized, you know, the ex-slaves had a Western culture, you know, they imbibed Western culture. And they established, like we pointed out, they established Furabe College, to which many of these slaves were sent. The case of a Yoruba ex-slave who was recaptured, Ajayi Crowther, in 1822 he was sent to live in Freetown. He was ordained a priest, became the first Anglican bishop in West Africa. And also reminds me of James Africanus Bele Hunton, who was the son of ex-Igbo slave that was recaptured. Both of these men from Nigeria lived in Cameroon, and they, of course, later on, Ajayi Crowther had to go to Abeokuta. But Horton became a medical doctor, went to Edinburgh where he studied medicine, and came back and tried to get the people of Sierra Leone to imbibe Western way of life, you know, while he still practiced medicine. That is what I'm trying to add to the effects of the establishment of Sierraleone as a settlement, a center for ex-slaves from Britain and other areas at that time. Now, let us move on now. They were administered from Britain and from British own political point of view until the quest for independence. The person that led the quest for this independence was a man known as